The Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman once said, quote, "Productivity isn't everything, but in the long run, it's almost everything."
Canada has a major productivity problem. This is bad for the economy and is a major flashing red warning light for today's citizens and generations to come. Productivity is the key benchmark of economic competitiveness, and Canada's productivity has been steadily falling for the past 2 years. This declining productivity in Canada is very bad news. It means less economic activity, lower earnings, and a lower standard of living for Canadians, whose GDP per capita has now fallen to the level of the poorest U.S. state of Mississippi. In this video, we're taking a look at what productivity means, why it's declining in Canada, why is this happening, and what can be done about it. Productivity measures output per unit of input. It can be measured in terms such as labor, capital, or any other resource. In this video, we're focused on labor productivity, which is calculated as a ratio of gross domestic product, or GDP, compared to hours worked. Labor productivity can be further broken down by sector to examine trends in labor growth, wage levels, and technological improvement. The declining amount of goods and services produced per hour worked across Canada shows that there is a huge productivity issue in this country. Labor productivity has been going down for 8 consecutive quarters in Canada. It fell a further approximately 1% in the last quarter of 2023 and is continuing to decline. In the third quarter, both goods-producing businesses around 1% down and services-producing businesses around 0.5% down posted a decline in their productivity, mainly due to decreases in the retail trade, manufacturing, and agriculture and forestry sectors. Around this same period, U.S. labor productivity surged around 3%, marking the third consecutive quarter of growth. It's no exaggeration to say that Canada's economy is in a truly scary position and is going over a cliff if something isn't done soon to turn things around. Why does Canada have this big productivity problem, and why is the U.S. productivity level so much higher? Several factors contribute to this disparity with the U.S. economy. Business experts cite a lack of competition in key industries, resulting in limited motivation for innovation. Additionally, regulatory hurdles delay project approvals, hindering progress. Insufficient investment in modernization, including efficient equipment, automation, and lack of innovation, further worsens the problem. For one simple example, manual labor with shovels versus utilizing modern machinery significantly impacts productivity in industries like construction. Moreover, the massive influx of immigrants to Canada, from temporary foreign workers to refugees, poses challenges in integrating them into the labor market effectively. In other words, many of these people are living in Canada and part of the population, but they're lowering productivity overall. Employment analysts note the importance of aligning newcomers' skills with suitable job opportunities to prevent productivity erosion. Trudeau's idea of just bringing in 500,000 people a year and hoping for the best is more than just naive. It sabotages Canada's economy at the core. Unlike the US, Canada invests less in business as a share of its GDP, with domestic investment being supplemented by foreign direct investment, primarily from the US. Canadian companies exhibit a higher degree of risk aversion, leading to fewer groundbreaking ventures compared to their American counterparts. This trend is further exacerbated by factors such as tax regulations that discourage domestic innovation and entrepreneurship. Consequently, Canada's economy lags behind in terms of productivity and innovation compared to the US. Despite boasting skilled and talented individuals, Canada struggles to retain its talent due to better opportunities south of the border, resulting in a phenomenon known as brain drain. Moreover, the economy's heavy reliance on natural resources has deterred investment in other sectors like manufacturing and research, contributing to a less diverse and innovative economic landscape. Since the end of World War II, 80% of the rise in Canadian standard of living has been because of increased labor productivity. The ongoing fall, along with bringing in hundreds of thousands of immigrants, is bad news and coincides with the huge fall in production. Despite the depreciation of the Canadian dollar, which makes exports more affordable, and the decrease in petroleum costs, making shipping cheaper, manufacturing sales have still kept contracting. Experts are stunned at the failure of Canadian manufacturing to expand despite favorable conditions conditions, such as inexpensive energy and a weakened dollar. Decades of dwindling manufacturing are now taking their toll, driven into the ground by the inflationary and other policies of the Canadian government. The Canadian manufacturing sector has been in decline for the better part of a couple of decades. We've witnessed a significant reduction in both the variety of products made in Canada and their volumes, notes Warren Everson of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. One example is Canada's automotive manufacturing sector, which used to be robust and now struggles to compete with Mexico, where workers are paid significantly less and have higher output. Another example is Canada's struggling retail industry, which is undergoing significant disruptive and foundational changes. Although success stories such as Canada Goose clothing have found success in a niche market and established profitable production methods in Canada, many challenges remain in the retail sector and productivity is waning. These are mainly due to a skilled labor shortage, high taxes, and stringent regulations. There are also many problems with Canadian companies investing more outside of Canada than foreign companies investing within the country. Moreover, uncertainty surrounding trade agreements such as the ratification of changes to NAFTA by the U.S. adds to the apprehension among businesses. For one part, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, says that Canada is in big trouble. In a recent report, they highlighted Canada's need for accelerated growth in living standards, advocating for bolstering the business environment to align Canada's lagging productivity and investment growth with leading OECD economies. The Canadian job market is expected to undergo a continued cooling in 2024. Some public sector industries remain notably tight, while private sector hiring has notably slowed down in recent months. In terms of provincial performance, Alberta and the Atlantic region are expected to fare relatively well, with employment growth keeping pace with labor force gains. Conversely, Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia are likely to experience a more pronounced slowdown in hiring. The fact of the matter is that many Canadians have lost hope and are focusing more on how to get out of the country than on being an active participant in the economy. Those who worked hard have watched their savings lose enormous value due to inflation, and wages haven't kept it all close to the cost of living, particularly when it comes to being able to rent or own a home or apartment. Canada operates a protected economy with key industries like groceries, airlines, and the dairy sector shielded from external influences and supported by government bailouts when needed. This protection has led to a lack of exposure to international competition and innovation. Over time, this has normalized mediocrity in the Canadian economy, hampering productivity and growth. Economists estimate that if Canada had matched the productivity growth of the United States over the last 5 years, individuals would have had an additional $4,000 to $5,000 each. This decline has been gradual, with generational shifts now making it more apparent. The anger and frustration among Canadians, especially millennials and Gen Z, stem from the realization that despite better-paying jobs, they face challenges, such as exorbitant housing costs. The truth is that if Canadian businesses were more productive, Canadians would have more money and access to much better products, services, and economic opportunities. In fact, if productivity had matched that of the United States over the last 25 years, disposable incomes would be $7,500 higher on average right now. Comparisons with advanced economies in the OECD reveal Canada's slipping position from being among the top performers to now ranking 15th in per capita GDP productivity. This trend is unique to Canada, as other developed nations continue to thrive. The overregulation blamed for the situation has fostered complacency in the private sector, affecting the psyche of Canadian businesses. It's not just government actions, but also the resulting mindset among Canadian business leaders that continue to the current state of affairs. A lot needs to change fast if Canada wants to start getting a handle on its productivity problem, and it involves an improvement of the economy as a whole and a smart and robust monetary policy coming out of Ottawa instead of the current excuses and lies. In Canada, the quest to enhance productivity and foster the growth of world-class companies has been a long-standing challenge, with a keen focus on the need for companies to scale up effectively. It's important to face the stark reality that Canada lags behind in scaling up companies compared to its global counterparts. As innovation economist and entrepreneur Charles Plant has pointed out, a lot of Canada's economy is at least partly rigged. Oligopolistic economic structures and regional disparities hinder effective competition and market penetration. Unlike countries with larger economic zones, Canada faces fragmentation and a jumbled-up economic landscape, impeding the development of robust sales and marketing strategies necessary for scaling up. Canada has huge obstacles in keeping talent in the country. There needs to be a focus on an export-oriented mindset and a greater emphasis on sales and marketing prowess. Drawing insights from leading OECD nations, Plant suggests learning from export-focused economies like South Korea and Israel. These countries prioritize market expansion and competition, driving innovation and growth. Plant identifies promising companies poised for scale up. Highlighting success stories like Shopify and Hopper, he underscores the pivotal role of external investment in fostering growth. The infusion of knowledge and resources from American backers underscores the importance of international partnerships in Canada's scaling journey. By embracing an export-oriented mindset, recalibrating resource allocation, and fostering international partnerships, Canada could unlock its potential as a hub for world-class companies, but much needs to change before that becomes a reality. Others, such as former Bank of Canada Governor David Dodge, recommend that the focus be on more money going to research and development, or R&D. Canada has far lagging investment in R&D compared to its peers. In 2022, Canadian firms allocated only 1.6% of GDP to R&D, which is less than half of what their American counterparts spent during the same period. This low investment in R&D hampers the discovery of innovative approaches and brings down the whole economy. Canadian companies' failure to make sufficient investments in R&D has led to a lack of innovation, hindering the production of cutting-edge products and services essential for competitiveness in the global market. Additionally, despite Canada's strong academic research, there is a significant gap in commercializing these innovations domestically, with many benefiting from foreign companies, particularly in the United States. There's also a big impact of companies like BlackBerry and Nortel's decline on productivity growth, highlighting the loss of skilled labor and the migration of talent to tech hubs like Silicon Valley. The absence of homegrown tech giants has diminished Canada's innovative capacity, with few notable successes compared to failures. Canada also has a big shortfall in intangible assets such as customer data and patents compared to the United States and Europe. While intangible assets have become increasingly vital for economic prosperity, Canadian policymakers and businesses have yet to fully recognize and capitalize on this shift. Canada's productivity challenges are significant, and a lot more needs to be done in terms of investment in R&D, stopping the loss of key companies and getting much more serious about sustained economic growth and competitiveness. Other potential improvements, such as enhancing tax and spending efficiency, would enable federal and provincial governments to keep to their key commitments without straining budgets, as well as removing barriers to internal trade and competition to enhance productivity. Additional improvements would also include easing restrictions on foreign ownership in relevant sectors and adapting competition laws to address challenges posed by big tech. Furthermore, the report advocates for reducing inter-provincial trade barriers and streamlining regulatory processes for businesses. Companies are also seeking ways to optimize their workforce's output, such as delaying hiring while increasing wages. This retention strategy, born from a tight labor market, could potentially boost productivity, benefiting the overall economy, but it needs to actually happen. Canada will hopefully play a significant role in manufacturing in the future, primarily focusing on upstream activities such as design, prototyping, and some aspects of marketing and market assessment. However, actual production is expected to take place in lower-cost environments, which means Canada needs to innovate and modernize much faster than it is currently doing if it wants to get the productivity rate up. Canada's productivity rate needs to change fast, or more Canadians are simply going to keep leaving the country. If you like this video and want to learn more about what's really going on in Canada, check out this video here. And if this video brought value to you today, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing the video. Thanks for watching.